Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Welcome to another episode of Front Page. I'm your host, Scott Cameron Goulet. What's the real purpose of the FBI raid on President Trump's Florida estate? If we connect the dots of what happened in the previous 8 months, we can get closer to the truth of the matter. China is experiencing a heat wave like no other in history, and no, we are not just selling global warming or climate change. This winter is not expected to be easy for anyone there in China to get through. Okay, let's get into it. From our front page story yesterday, it's easy to imagine that the FBI's purpose in searching President Trump's Florida residence would be to find documents of interest. They thought that there would be something there that they needed in the documents that President Trump had handed over to the National Archives and Records Administration, so they asked NARA to allow them to review. Apparently, the review revealed that there were no documents there in their target, which had led them to the raid on Mar-a-Lago. In addition to speculation that the FBI was looking for evidence of President Trump's involvement in the January 6th incident or documents related to the Russiagate hoax, there is now additional speculation that this may be related to President Trump's lawsuit against Hillary Clinton, against the Democratic National Committee, and against former FBI officials, former Director James Comey, former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, former agent Peter Strzok, and former FBI lawyer Lisa Page. It's also possible that the Trump team will add more defendants to this case. Epoch TV's Truth Over News program organized the timeline of the RICO lawsuit against them and the events leading up to and following the lawsuit. Looking at this timeline, we begin to get a clear idea of the whole picture. It starts on January 19th, 2021. That was the day before President Trump left the White House. He ordered the Attorney General to declassify a binder of materials related to the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Crossfire Hurricane investigation, although President Trump accepted some redactions that were proposed for continued classification by the FBI. So the Justice Department was aware of and reviewed all of the documents in that declassified binder. Of course, Attorney General Merrick Garland did not declassify a single page of those documents. After 1 year, in mid-January of 2022, the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, received 15 boxes that contained presidential records from Mar-a-Lago following discussions with President Trump's representatives in 2021. Shortly thereafter, on February 14th, NARA claimed in a statement that some of the Trump presidential records received by the National Archives and Records Administration included paper records that had been torn up by President Trump. The next day, February 15th, 2022, Senator Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson sent a letter to Garland stating that the DOJ has so far refused to comply with the declassification order that President Trump issued in January 2021. Grassley told Garland that the DOJ must identify the records subject to the declassification order, and second, produce those records to Congress and the American people without improper redactions. 3 days later, NARA archivist David Fierro sent a letter to the House Oversight and Reform Committee and stated that NARA has identified items marked as classified national security information within the boxes. But President Trump held ultimate authority on whether the documents were classified. Maybe those are the documents that President Trump ordered unclassified. A week later, the House Oversight Committee demanded in a press release that NARA turn over additional information, including an inventory of the boxes that were recovered from Mar-a-Lago and information on any classified documents, as well as documents from the Trump administration related to the former president's destruction of records. It was already the end of February at this point. Almost a month later, President Trump, on March 24th, formally filed his RICO lawsuit against Hillary, which stated that the defendants maliciously conspired to weave a false narrative that President Trump was colluding with a hostile foreign sovereign, namely Russia. For the next 2 months, things stayed relatively quiet. It is expected that at this point, all parties were planning their next steps. On May 31st, Grassley sent the first of 4 letters to Garland and FBI Director Christopher Wray. Grassley leveled a very serious allegation that the assistant special agent in charge at the Washington field office, Timothy Thibault, violated federal regulations and department guidelines that are designed to prevent political bias from infecting FBI matters. On June 3rd, 3 days after Grassley's letter to Wray, FBI agents went to Mar-a-Lago and inspected the storage facility and its containment of documents that was being held by President Trump. According to reports, Jay Bratt, the top counterintelligence official at the DOJ's National Security Division, personally inspected the storage facility while interacting with both President Trump and one of his lawyers. Reportedly, President Trump allowed 3 FBI agents to open boxes in the storage room and look through them. If President Trump really hid classified documents that endangered national security, the FBI should have found them at this point. After more than 2 weeks, on June 21st, President Trump filed an amended RICO suit against Clinton and a large number of other DNC-related individuals who were involved in the Russiagate hoax. On the same day, Kash Patel, a former Trump administration official, announced that he was officially a representative for President Trump at the National Archives. And his intention was to identify every single document that they blocked from being declassified. Patel planned to release the information a week later. The following day, June 22nd, Magistrate Bruce Reinhart, the justice who issued the search warrant to raid Mar-a-Lago, suddenly recused himself from President Trump's lawsuit against Clinton and company. After the judge was gone from Trump's case against Hillary, on July 14th, the DOJ wanted to remove Hillary and company as the defendant and have the DOJ or the United States substituted as defendant. 1 week later, the motion to substitute was granted. The DOJ had successfully inserted itself into Trump's RICO suit. The reason that the DOJ wanted to substitute itself as the defendant in the RICO suit was they were planning, if the substitution was accepted, the court should then dismiss the United States for lack of subject matter jurisdiction, and then they could have the Trump suit against Hillary dismissed. It's worth noting that the information previously declassified by President Trump is directly relevant to his suit. In the process, on July 18th and July 25th, Grassley sent 2 letters to Wray and Garland that alleged that the number of highly credible whistleblowers have prompted fundamental questions about whether the Department of Justice and the FBI are properly fulfilling their combined law enforcement mission with impartiality and without fraud, abuse, and gross mismanagement. On August 4th, President Trump filed, in opposition to the substitution of the United States or the DOJ for Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, and Kleinsmith. The next day, August 5th, Reinhart signed the FBI search warrant for Mar-a-Lago. This search warrant was personally approved by Attorney General Merrick Garland. 3 days later, the FBI executed the raid. With this timeline, we have a better idea of why the DOJ and the FBI would take such action at the risk of public scorn. If they didn't raid Mar-a-Lago, their sins would soon be revealed to the world. Risking a little public scorn might delay it a little while, but this is their dying struggle. After Anthony Fauci announced his departure, which will be before the end of the year, the Wall Street Journal published an opinion piece summarizing Dr. Fauci's career. The article acknowledged Dr. Fauci's personal achievements in the field of infectious disease. The article says his personal research contributions are impressive, but Dr. Fauci and his team were among the first proponents of mRNA technology, and this technology is now being used in 2 COVID-19 vaccines. As the leader of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Anthony Fauci's performance has been criticized. The article points out several things. First, Dr. Fauci is a scientist and a politician at the same time. A flagrant example of this is Dr. Fauci's refusal to even consider the novel coronavirus had originated in a lab at the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China, to be specific. And Dr. Fauci also denies that the NIH funded the Wuhan Institute of Virology's virus research. Worse yet, Dr. Fauci slandered a handful of courageous scientists. These scientists disagreed with Fauci's outbreak precautions. They opposed a total lockdown, and they proposed a strategy of focused protection for the elderly and the people in high-risk groups. The article says, emails that have since surfaced show that Dr. Fauci worked with others in government to ridicule this alternative, so the alternatives never got a truly fair public hearing. Dr. Fauci and the public health experts around him used their power to declare 15 days to slow the spread in the early weeks of the pandemic without scientific backing. This was a phrase that was used even before the Biden administration, but those 2 weeks were ultimately extended to 2 years. The article says the uncertainties of the pandemic's course weren't his fault, but the certainty of his policy prescriptions certainly was. Dr. Fauci equates himself with the embodiment of science, and he does not allow scientific debate on COVID. He said last November, it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing the science because I represent science. That's dangerous. That statement sums up the view of public health clerics. So, should the public let a few powerful people define science and then impose their preferred policies and mandates on the country? The Wall Street Journal article concludes by saying that Dr. Fauci's legacy will be that Americans will never trust government health experts in the same way ever again. People in most parts of China have been experiencing 2 months of scorching heat. Hundreds of places are reporting temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And records have been broken in many places. On August 18th, the official temperature in Chongqing, Sichuan province was declared to have reached 45 degrees Celsius, which is 113 degrees Fahrenheit. I do emphasize that this is the official recognition of the temperature because the Chinese Communist Party's regime is faking even the temperature of the weather. According to the CCP's regulation, if the weather exceeds 40 degrees Celsius, it is necessary to take a holiday or pay a high temperature subsidy. In order to avoid additional financial expenses, the CCP has been trying to keep the temperature within 40 degrees Celsius when announcing the temperature. This became a hot topic on the internet in China when Shanghai residents found out that their Apple phones showed 50 degrees Celsius or 122 degrees Fahrenheit, while the official temperature still said 40 degrees Celsius. Since then, they have started to see official temperature reports exceeding 40 degrees Celsius. The current heat wave is the highest recorded in China since 1961, when the Communist Party actually had a complete record of weather observations. Currently, China's current heat wave is the longest, most intense, and most widespread heat wave in the world today. Maximiliano Herrera, a meteorological historian who monitors temperature extremes around the world, said that China is actually experiencing the worst heat wave on record worldwide. Herrera said, "The Chinese heat wave combines the most extreme intensity, the most extreme length, while covering an incredibly large area." He also said there is nothing in the history of the world climate that compares to what is happening in China. At least 66 rivers in China have dried up completely due to high temperatures and low rainfalls, which have caused their river levels to drop. In parts of the Yangtze River, water levels are at their lowest since records began in 1865. Large areas of riverbeds and rocks were exposed and smelled of rotting fish. According to the video and pictures provided by Chinese media, Poyang Lake, the largest freshwater lake in China, has been dropping in water level since August 19th, when it entered the dry season, and it recently revealed a large grassland. These images show a comparison from before and after the drought. For the following video, we can see a large area of Poyang Lake's riverbed is exposed and is turned into a vast grassland. In some places, local water sources have run out and drinking water has been trucked in. On August 19th, China declared a national drought alert, which is the first time in 9 years. As rainfall decreases, the Yangtze River's falling water levels have also caused disruptions in power generation at many key hydropower plants, sparking chaos in energy supplies in many parts of the country. Sichuan has been particularly hard hit as thousands of factories in the province have had to shut down operations because 80% of the province's electricity comes from hydroelectric power. Offices and shopping centers have also been told to cut back on lighting and air conditioning to save power. Many major cities, including Shanghai and Wuhan, have turned off lights and escalators, and they have reduced air conditioning use in response to power shortages. Tesla Inc. warned of supply chain disruptions at its Shanghai plant. Other companies such as Toyota Motor Corporation and contemporary Amperex Technology Limited, which is the world's top maker of batteries for electric vehicles, closed factories in Sichuan last week. Some top polysilicon makers, including Tongwei, said that their plants have been affected, further squeezing the supply of key materials for solar panels. High temperatures are also threatening food supplies, and authorities have acknowledged that the prolonged drought is seriously threatening the rice and summer corn harvests. Analysts at Goldman Sachs Group warned in a report that 6 regions suffering from drought account for almost half of China's rice production in 2021. A country of 1.4 billion people facing food shortages is no small problem. This situation could have global implications, leading to further supply chain disruptions and exacerbating the global food crisis. Dan Wang, chief economist at Hang Seng Bank China, said that the current situation in China is quite critical and the heat wave is feared to continue in the next 2 to 3 months, which will affect energy-intensive industries and will have a ripple effect on the overall economy, even affecting the global supply chain. However, while the Yangtze River Basin is experiencing a 100-year drought, the northern part of China is experiencing deadly heavy rains and floods. The floods have also shut down mines and affected coal shipments. This could mean that China will have to deal with more erratic weather patterns and more frequent and persistent droughts and floods. This crisis adds to the challenges of China's economic recovery. Currently, the Chinese economy has suffered a major blow under the frequent COVID-19 blockades and with the real estate crisis. It's looking like the title second largest economy in the world will soon belong to another country. Next, I want to take a moment to thank you all for your support of Front Page. If you want more Front Page, please join our membership site for in-depth reports and sensitive news that you cannot see on YouTube. Your donation and your membership subscription are really helping us to continue to tell you the truth. Every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you. But please double check to make sure that you are still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they're somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We heard from many of our viewers also that they don't get notifications of our videos anymore from YouTube. So please follow us on Telegram, Gab, Getter, and Truth Social for the latest updates. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth. Again, thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.